Entry at the end of
Wait,
Katoots.
I think we're live, bro. Hold on. So we're gonna go right back to that. I need to turn off the audio on my computer. So yeah, you trashed a surfboard.
Goddamn ocean went dry on me after a turn, and I was like, there was nowhere to go. I just fell backwards onto my back. And I came up going, wow, I dodged a bullet there, and I grabbed my board, and the nose, up under the nose, was just torn to pieces, like fiberglass hanging off everywhere. I was like, oh well, the board didn't do so well.
Okay, I think we're live, bro. So
cool.
So
hi, everyone.
If anybody is watching, this is our first go, and so I've tweaked with it, and I think I have.
I just fell back.
Audio sorted. I have the chat box open, so if the audio's shit, let us know that it's shit. And then me and Twiggy will keep, this tech is so far beyond me. So, man, funny, a buddy of mine on Instagram, he posts his Hypto Crypto, and he's surfing it as a quad. And all the... The two trailer fins are both like ripped out, man, like shredded out of the fin boxes. And I'm like, oh, you deserve it for surfing a fucking Hypto Crypto, man.
I'm so glad you said it.
One. Like, I've had one before, man. I had one. And I'm like, what'd you do? Surf it onto some rocks? And he's like, nah, I drove over it. So he would have been getting changed or something. And drove over.
There you go. That's the universe sending a strong message.
Strong, man. Strong. All right. Yeah, so how's life, man? What's up? What's going on?
Man, it's pretty good. It's very simple, and there's this real kind of thought duality going on at the moment because I know so many people are suffering, and everyone's doing their own version of having, or nearly everyone, having lost a lot, right? And it's no more pronounced than, I guess, on this island. And then there's moments of just complete peace and serenity. And I just think, man, this is amazing. But then that little thought comes into my head, like, it's almost like I'm meant to feel guilty because there's such hard times. And it's like, don't have too much. Don't be too blissful or whatever. Yeah. It's hard to describe, man.
Well, everybody, like, I was talking with a client because he's going through some shit, but there's a lot of other people going through way worse shit. And he's like, it makes me feel bad that I feel bad when other people. I'm like, well, you can't discount your own emotional experience. You're allowed to have an emotional reaction to things. And yes, the frame of reference of that is very different from somebody else, but it doesn't negate your own emotional experience of a situation. And so, like,
yeah,
because for self included, like, as far as things could go, like, I'm in a really great position. It's not all good, but it's better than a lot of others I know, even family included. And so, I think it's just, it is weird times, man. Strange, weird times.
It is.
We got a thumbs up from somebody. I think the audio is good. Cool. So we'll just keep talking shit.
Cool. Yeah, look, I mean, I'm trying to kind of, on one hand, stay ahead of developments, and not just with the C word, but also with ramifications of the whole, pandemic thing, and then the lockdowns, supply shocks, all this type of stuff. And I've been watching a lot of content, and it's it's good because when I go to social media, it's not all great. There's a lot of, even more than usual, division and people trying to get other people to join their team. I won't go too deep into it, but I've tried to sort of withdraw from that and just get my own information from a bunch of sources and look at, rather than, like, say, for what you or I were doing a few months ago, where we're like, wow, like, we got a good year planned and some cool shit going on. And now it's like, well, all that's done. It's like I've pretty much lost all my earnings for the year. And like I said, there's people a lot worse off than me. I'm in a fortunate situation where I'm still able to earn basically a few hundred Aussie dollars a week here in Indo, which is enough for me to live on. It's enough for me to make a small donation to the village I live in every week.
Yeah.
And I'm feeding a ridiculous amount of dogs at the moment, because down at the beach there's like 4 puppies that were dumped way too young to be away from their mother. And there's 2 to 3 adult dogs that are kind of relying on my morning visits to drop food for them. And then the puppies are getting sick and they've got to get them injections. And it's like, wow, this is what responsibility feels like outside of your own responsibility. Come on, man. But you know what? I'm cool with it. It's hard to explain, but yeah. And then so I'm watching some really interesting things about, if I was to try and condense it, like, how did we normally live a few months ago? How are we currently living? And how will we live? So what did we used to get that might not be available as freely in the near or kind of near future? And it's like a lot of this is to do with foods for sure, and types of agriculture and products that were sent from a long way away that we not necessarily relied on but enjoyed the luxury of having or getting, be they foods or my surfboards, for example, came from Australia. Like I've gotten all my old boards out, touched them up, like got a few of them fixed. Like I said, one of them got trashed, which is unfortunate, but hey, it was actually one that I'd sort of singled out. Well, it's already got a little crease in it. We can afford to sort of, if someone's got to get hurt, it might as well be him. So there's this day-to-day living, day-to-week foresight or forethought, and beyond that, there's this possibility, this realm of possibilities. So whereas we used to look at, this is what I'm projecting my year to be like, and I've got these trips going and this money coming in and everything should be hunky-dory till the end of the year when I'm always fucking broke again. Now it's like, well, I don't know what's going to happen next month, but for the next few weeks, I can do this. And these are the, say, next month, if I normally looked at the 1 or 2 possibilities of what was going to happen or was happening, now I'm looking at closer to 5 possible outcomes for things on a, my life macro scale. The global thing's another subject in itself.
Yeah, it's a bit
strange, it's a lot to consider.
It goes to like what I've told some people is it goes to show how uniquely fragile what we perceived as just normal modern existence actually is. So in our field, in the amount of travel that we do, like and all our friends that have camps or boats or all that stuff is indefinitely done. And it'll come back, but there's no telling in what duration it will come back. I imagine the shifting that's going to take place within the mental wise of various camp ownership. Airline travel is going to be structured differently. It might get to a point where we have to show vaccination in order to get on an airplane. I tell a lot of clients because they're in hard positions and we just talk shit. And not that I think I'm in a good place to offer deep insight, just some perspective. You just gotta like you said, man, the micro level at the moment, day by day, week by week kind of thing. There's no point in planning 12 months from now. So people are like, oh, we're doing trips in 2020. I'm like, oh, we'd like to. We got to see if we can get on a plane.
Yeah, I'd be happy if I could just keep the dogs alive, So, man, it's outside of that, I don't, like I said, there's a lot of people trying to get people to join their teams and stuff, and I'm trying not to be in a team but I'm definitely gathering information. And there's one particular guy who I watch, and a lot of people say he's a fucking nut job or whatever. I don't believe. He extrapolates information. He finds a subject, studies it, tells you why, blah, blah, blah. And so I've watched a lot of clips of his.
Who
and
is it?
and I was what his name's actually Cliff High, and Cliff with one F, High, and he's done a series for the last couple of months now, basically that's just called critical thinking, and he's trying to stay ahead of the curve of what is today and what's approaching, and this is where I get a lot of this information about things that will no longer be available or possibly no longer available, things to consider. And today he did one just on. Well, I haven't even finished it. It was like I think I was 15 or 20 minutes into a 50-minute clip when I went down to the beach to feed the dogs, and he's talking today about vitamin levels in our body. So vitamin D, vitamin C were high on the list, zinc, and blah blah blah. And he actually, like, this guy lives somewhere in the US in the country, and he's very detached from, mainstream society and that. And I think he's pretty hard on the low carb diet. He's just he's had cancer recently and gotten over that, so he's doing pretty much keto, right? So he eats a lot of elk and stuff that is caught locally, farmed locally. He doesn't rely on the system per se. But anyway, back to the subject. He was talking about vitamin D levels in his body, and he's been studying a broader picture of people who have been tested for the virus and what their blood work or whatever showed. I don't know the exact scientific terms for this, but their levels of certain things like vitamin D and zinc and blah blah blah. Now he's drawn a conclusion, and a lot of people are going to jump up and down when they hear this, and I understand, but he's drawn a pretty strong conclusion. And this is the first time he's ever mentioned specific people. He mentioned lifeguards and surfers, in particular people who do said things in warmer water areas and get a lot of good vitamin D from the sun, as almost being no chance of getting the severe version of the virus. Now, like I said, I only got so far into the clip. I haven't heard his whys and hows, but I do like this guy. He's openly said in one of his clips, he said, "I'm not trying to get you to join my team. I don't give a shit if you're on my team." He said, "I'm just trying to provide information that might help people." So he's the guy. I think I mentioned to you about chaga mushrooms, and how they have a lot of bioavailable vitamin D, A, K, maybe zinc as well. So that sort of stuff has been really interesting to me. Obviously there's been a lot of different teams, and dare I mention the 5G thing and all that, but I've kind of drawn away from all that and just gone, well, if people aren't telling me why they're getting or how they're getting this information and then following it up with a bit more, I'm kind of not paying a lot of attention.
Well,
apart from the fact that I agree that we've had a lot of our rights taken away.
Yeah, because it's hard to filter. And then, you've got the issues with YouTube now pulling videos off of YouTube.
Exactly.
Again, so there's all these strange Orwellian things starting to happen because a pandemic scenario, whether it's fabricated or a bioweapon or numbers are changed by the government in the US and all, it's a perfect rife scenario for any type of conspiracy theory, and there's always a bit of truth to it. But yeah, you're seeing a strange time where, again, you're getting wide stream censorship. YouTube's taking part in it. Facebook's taking part in it. Google was taking part in it for years now in terms of censoring and filtering out health news, Actually, I heard something interesting the other day. So would have been a couple years back, if you Googled natural cure for, herpes. That's the first thing that came to mind. Or natural cure for cold, whatever. You'd get a Dr. Mercola would pop up article. You'd get a Dr. Josh Axe kind of thing, and a few others. So starting about 2 years ago, Google pulled them all. And so you won't get a Mercola hit anymore. You might get a Dr. Josh Axe hit, on page 2 or something. But the main three you will always get, and if you Google this, you will see it. You'll get Healthline, WebMD, and one other one. And those 3 websites are all primarily funded only by the pharmaceutical industry. And so they're doctoral websites, but they are, if you go to them, all the advertising across it is pharmaceutical based. And so
Man, that's heavy.
You know, again, it all just goes back to, it's easy to go down the rabbit hole. And
I've got a lot of time for Dr. Mercola because I studied a lot of his clips when I was doing the strict keto thing, and I reckon he's like a fucking dude, right? He's a guru.
He's switched
so
on.
The fact that he's getting suppressed sucks big time.
It's generally pretty switched on. Segue off the Corona shit. So I watched the Thundercloud documentary last night. You ever seen it? The Cloud Break.
Cloud Break. Yeah.
Fuck, it's worth a watch, man. It's on Amazon. Anybody that's listening, you can watch it on Amazon for like $3. Go on Amazon Prime. Hell of a documentary.
Yeah, awesome. There's hey, well, while we're on that subject, and I think I posted it the other day on the Facebook Better Surf Technique page, the 4-part YouTube series called Vela.
I need to watch
VELA.
Yeah.
With John and a bunch of his friends when just after he had the knee surgery. And there's not a hell of a lot of surfing in it, but it gives you a really good insight into John and just how willingly or willfully connected he is to the ocean and how fascinated he is by all aspects of it. And then you go to Palmyra Island in the Pacific. They sail there on John's little cat. And this place is like a fully functioning ecosystem with no pieces missing. And there's scientists living there studying it all. And there's no links missing in the chain. It's just magnificent, you know. And it's only like 4 parts. Each is about 15 or maybe 20 minutes long. Really cool to watch. So yeah, that's on YouTube.
Need to give that a go. We watched. So Michael Moore helped produce this documentary. He's not the narrator because Michael Moore, you know, his docos, they're good, but they're like far end of a spectrum. Well, he got behind one that just came out. You can watch it on YouTube, and I don't remember the name of it. It's something about humans, and it's destructive, man. Like, we were gonna watch one evening. I was like, I don't want to watch this. It's gonna make me feel fucking terrible. But anyways, we did end up finally watching it, and it's worth a watch in the sense of it's a portrayal of how all the green and environmentally progressive movements have all now been hijacked and sold out to essentially major oil industry and major like any energy conglomerates. Yeah. And you know,
keep us divided.
Oh, divided. And you watch it, and you're just it's a reinforcement of the idea that we're fucked and humans are just a horrible plight to the environment.
You know, on Nyepi Day here, I made I like the internet's, you know, down to a speed where you can't do anything and all that. And I had my computer and I had a hard drive which I hadn't looked at for a while. And I got into some old docos and that, and I watched one called Earthlings, and it's all about the mass produced meat industry and how the animals are treated and killed. And I should say I'm not a vegetarian or a vegan, but it was heavy to watch, man, and it made me really think long and hard. And I've always been pretty particular about meats that I source and that sort of thing, but I was like, wow, I want to be even more careful now, which then like this all happened and obviously I'm probably going to be down to a point very soon where I'll only source meats locally. Actually, I don't know if you can see that box behind me.
Is that a new fridge or a freezer?
Chest freezer, dude.
Yeah, bro.
I'm prepping. That's my version of prepping. I couldn't afford a gun. I got a chest freezer.
That's it, man. I just got delivered like quarter of a lamb earlier this week. Good to go. Pasture raised, happy lamb.
Yeah.
But, well, this is.
I've had a couple of chats. With Rusty up at Gerringong, and and you know, we've had some good open chats about what's going on and everything. And he's got his own property, right? He's on a farm and he's got cows and all sorts of stuff. So he's like he's in a really cool headspace where even though he's lost a huge percentage of his earnings, he's still in a position where he can do private surf lessons, surf coaching, and he's still making enough to live, and he's really happy and grateful for it. It's like, yeah, I think it's just one of those things, like we're all. And this is a huge subject which I've discussed with a lot of people in the last week, especially is and I've always considered like humans' greatest ability that many of them had lost is their ability to adapt.
Yes.
And this is where it's going to really come to the fore again. How are you going to adapt? There's always a way. It's always about what can I do, right? So when you get stuck in what you can't do, and then you're kind of removed from the things you're grateful for, and you can't see the forest for the trees. And so, yeah, it's about just sort of, it's like what we talk about in the ocean when those macking cleanup sets come. You want to have a calm mind and think rationally, otherwise that oxygen ain't going to last long. Yeah.
Well, it's like you said, it's the adaptability. Like humans have done so well because we're just astoundingly adaptable in a variety of environments. And the problem is we've all gotten too fucking soft. And this is primarily applicable to Europeans, North Americans, and Australians. And then, you've got some of the Asian countries. But think of developed first worlds. Like, most of us don't have standard hardships. And I mean like we have financial stress and credit card stress, but there's no physical hardship that the human organism is evolutionary destined to go through. And so we've gotten fucking soft. Yes. So like great grandparents and grandparents having to go through World War I and II, Great Depression, smallpox stuff, polio, like that shit's real. And
life-threatening.
Me speaking from somebody the standpoint of 37, what really terrible shit have I had to go through in terms of cultural, socioeconomic events? Nothing. Like on a micro individual home scale, yeah, probably. Like, and everybody has. And everybody's had individual bouts of health issues and cancer. But something global or where there's a big shift in everything that we perceive to be normal, it hasn't happened. And so now it is. And so people suddenly, yes, the comfort levels have kind of been like, scratch that. That's gone.
Yeah. It's just the beginning too, I reckon. Like or quite possibly just the beginning. And if people want to have a really, interesting and detailed look at the macro picture economically, you could probably Google this. Raoul Pal, Raoulpal is his name. And he's written a 120-page PDF called The Unfolding. And he published it on the 28th of March, I believe. And it's detailing everything was coming, is happening, and the possibilities of what will happen. And look, I'm not going to lie, it doesn't paint a pretty picture, especially economically. But he even says, look, I really hope this isn't what happens, but I'm writing this because it's a combination of everything I've ever seen in my life. Like, this is a guy who retired at 37 and held some really high positions at, maybe it was Goldman Sachs or somewhere like that. Like, he knows economies, right?
Yeah.
And he's written this paper, and I'm like about 40 pages in going, far out. But it's good to be aware of what might happen.
Yeah, I've been reading a lot of stuff about foreseeable futures and stuff in the States, and again, it's bizarre times. Like for those of us that are still fortunate to be in situations like you and I are, we just kind of have to be. We might not be flourishing, but at least we're safe, and we've got food, and you can still surf, and I can still surf here and there. so,
dude,
man,
I will say, like, because I live in this little village, like, where I live, and I'm not even allowed into the next village per se. Like, we're only allowed out onto the main road where there's a general area where you could buy fruit and vegetables and supplies. And so I've gone into, like, a lot of us have moved into sort of a co-op type of situation. So I have one friend, like, across the road and on the hill who is still in my village. So we can see each other and communicate. And he has a business in town. And so we've started sourcing food from from places that would normally supply restaurants and things like that, and they've still got lots of food, right? And it's good, but you've got to buy in bulk.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just had like scrambled eggs with like mushroom, onion, sun-dried tomato, proper cheese, some rad quality chili pork. Like I'm eating really well. It's just about I have to make more of an effort to get the food I need to survive, but I'm actually eating better than I was because I'm not just going, fuck it, I'll go to the restaurant.
Are the restaurants open or have they closed?
So over in Balian, which I can't go to, but there's a couple of their staff live in this village, so they're able to deliver to me if I ever get lazy. So Tekor is open from 5 p.m. Casa and Pondoc Pattaya and Sushi Surf are open during the day, and I think Pondoc Pattaya and Sushi Surf will deliver. I'm not sure about Casa, but yeah, everyone, the people that are, and I'll use the word stuck here because now people are, and if you want to leave, you can't come back. So yeah, people have food and good food available to them, and they can go and do shopping or whatever. And if you leave the village, you just got to be back in an hour, sort of thing. I will say, like, I'm really pleased or like kind of proud of the way like my village or the Bunjars and
well, they're kind of handling it rationally. Like,
sorry,
they're handling it rationally and well. Like, it's fantastic.
Yeah, and as you know, over here, like every village is different and in a different location, so they've got slightly different things to consider. So I really respect that. They're all getting their orders from upstairs, and the orders come down, and then each Bunjar adds their version of a little bit of flexibility to it, so we're not just stuck indoors going crazy, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, yeah.
What I had heard of happening, and then obviously it got exploited, but I think they should implement it again, is basically Balinese surf coaches. You can hire a surf coach or instructor to guide you. And again, it would have to be strictly limited, but at least an opportunity. Like I go hire some dude so I can go out and surf. He's with me. He can be with 2 people. So there'd be 3 of us. Maybe there's only 3 or 4 surf instructors allowed. There'd be a way to kind of mandate it for people still to be able to surf and to throw money into some of the locals' pockets. And
I agree. It's become like a little bit crazy, like certain things are allowed and certain things are not. And I won't go into the details because then I'm going to create separation between different people. But yeah, I think there's certain places where rationality's been less used, and I'm fortunate to be in a place where rationality has been used. And then there's been a couple of situations where people have tried to sort of abuse what's been going on, and they've been dealt with appropriately. So and it's the most unity, communication, collaboration I've ever seen between the Bunjars and the Westerners that live in my local area, and I'm really happy with it and proud.
Do you have any word from the boys and the Ments as to what's going on or expectations there for the year?
No, I've had a couple of emails with Cardu, and I'm looking forward to chatting with him soon. I did see him when we got off the boat and I came back to the island. I went past his house quickly and just had a chat through the fence, and just said, all right, well, let's just let this play out for a few weeks, and then we'll have a chat and see where it goes from here. And man, I imagine you'd be seeing some of the posts coming out of the Ments, and there's just empty lineups and some pretty amazing waves too. And I'm like,
I know
oh my God.
A couple people, one of them included, who's over in Sumba at the moment, and I was like, man, you made a good call, bro. Damn, you made a good call being there.
Yeah, and he's in a pretty cool situation where they've allowed him just to stay, and they're just swapping skills, and it's like people getting on co-op type situations. And I really that's part of what I really appreciate about this whole situation. As many negatives as there are, there's some real good cooperation going on. And yeah, and if you're lucky enough to be a part of that, you really get that good good energy, man. Fuck.
Well, it's like I'd said to a few people, so you see it in the States. In the States, the government's fucked. Like, there's no trickle-down positivity coming from the government, essentially. But what you do see is actually community organizations actually, once again, like, it's going to be a communal support structure that gets people through it, not a trickle-down effect from the government or governmental mandates or something. Like, for example, and I could be wrong with this, but there's a decree potential in the States where the president can basically say, let's say you have a factory that could create ventilators. The president could say, all right, you're going to stop making Frisbees because you're fucking making Frisbees for some reason. And instead of making Frisbees, you're going to make ventilators because we need them. It hasn't happened. And so he's left it up more to the free market. And so you got all these fucked up price gouging and stuff whatsoever. So there hasn't been any governmental mandates of we need this, York factory is making this, we will pay you for it, etc. But what you've seen is, like, I heard of a guy in Florida who has figured out a low-cost way to make ventilators. And he's making, I think, upwards of 100 a month now. Some dude in a garage who's now employing neighbors. And, like, so you're seeing that type of communal organization and support starting to reemerge, and it's that's going to kind of get people through scenarios like this rather than large-scale initiatives that I see that are government-based, unless it's lockdown procedural shit like that. But it's again this community-based kind of thing where co-op.
Yeah, it's interesting to see, like, these new or potential new rules and laws and things coming in, and it's like, at what point are people going to go, whoa, that's a bit heavy-handed. Maybe we need to kind of take some action. Say again?
You're going to have to get your vaccine and your vaccine tattoo to show that you're allowed to travel.
Mine will be a big, like, that kind of tattoo.
So for anybody that is watching, this is our first ever go. So now that we have figured it out, we'll do some big Q&As and some more. This is mostly just Twiggy and I talking shit. We do have a question from Sean Gilbertass. With beaches being closed, I got your app and it's great. Going to start heading out on Swelltech surf skate soon. Recommendations on what to do or just cruise and turn and work on coffee cup hand. So I'm sure Twiggy can, it's all about, you can recreate movement patterns on top of a surf or skateboard. And so, get accustomed to feeling where this spiral of movement from eyes and head and arms make the board do things, because that's essentially putting it on rail. And so just feel how coordination of the body.
If you haven't ridden one before or not a lot, my opinion is the best way to start is on a super light incline or decline, and just so you can just let the momentum happen and focus on how am I going to use my body. So don't bend at the hips and stick your ass out. Just stand up in a nice relaxed posture, the ballroom dancer type thing, and just use your arms and your shoulders to twist and guide where you want to go. Yeah. And the less you've got to create your own momentum for that, the more space you're going to have in your mind to just calmly do that and feel how well it works and how it should work.
I think
and from there, you can just move on.
You're spot on with, like, the small incline and just being soft with it, because you see people get on the skateboards a lot and they do this wiggle shit to make speed, and the wiggle shit all you're really trying to figure out on the skateboard is how the movement of the body and the coordination of the body and leaning and twisting influences the skateboard. That's what you're after, not the wiggling and trying to make speed and figuring out how to pump. It's just being smooth and figuring out how leaning and twisting and looking and rotating the body lets this rotational pattern start happening.
Yeah. So if you're not already capable of, say, generating your own speed well on a surfboard, and I mean well as in using your body well, then you're probably also not capable of doing it on a skateboard, hence the need for that little gradual hill. And I see a lot of people get on these skateboards and, yeah, you're generating speed, but I'm sorry, I'm going to criticize you because I'm kind of a little harsh. I'm even harsh on myself, right? But, yeah, I see that jerky body movements where one part of the body's twisting one way and the other half's already going back the other way. And I'm like, no, that's too quick. You want to slow everything down. Smooth. You know? Yeah.
I was working with a guy yesterday, legend of a dude, older fella, losing weight anyways, messing around with his pop-up. And one of the things I had him do, and I told him that you should get on a skateboard and start feeling this, is to just stand in a surf stance and just be comfortable moving up and down, because he'd pop up and he'd get into this stance that was so stiff and locked and rigid. And I'm like, man, you should probably like stand up and like Tai Chi, kind of like how soft everything is. And he would just be there, up, low, big barrel, small barrel. I'm like, no, man, that's not so. If solid ground, can you flow? And then can you get on a skateboard and just be totally relaxed and just flow like water?
Exactly. It's all about the flow, man. Yeah. It's you should feel it, and if you think you can feel it, take a video get someone to video you doing it, and then go, well, I felt it. Do I see it? And if you felt it and you see it, probably it's somewhere in the realm of okay. But if you felt it and then you look at it and go, whoa, probably means you were feeling it incorrectly, and you need to slow it down and straighten your spine, open your shoulders, and just get them moving. The Grom that I coached, the 9-year-old, he's just started to stand up more upright and use his shoulders really well. And dude, it's so good. I'm so happy just watching him, you know. Hi, Platon, you'll watch this one day. And then he got his first barrel, like a real barrel. And like I said to him, I've been talking it down because he kept thinking he was getting barrel. I'm like, dude, you're not getting barrel.
Your little head dip's not a fucking barrel, bro.
And I said, but don't worry, because I didn't get my first real one till I was about 12, and I was in there so long I freaked out and jumped off.
Most people do.
And I still can picture it. Still picture it plain as day. And Stuart Darcy revved me up big time, and rightly so. He should have, because I never forgot that. And and so the Grom, so I'm telling this to the Grom, and I said, so basically you've got 3 years to get your first barrel before I got mine. It took him 3 fucking days.
Done. So with Zoom, I think we're about to get kicked off. I think it's a 40-minute Zoom. I don't remember what the free version of Zoom allows. So I think what we'll do is, everybody that watched, thanks for watching. This was really informal. We'll figure this out. I'm going to post on social media to get a bunch of questions, and me and Twiggy will do like a long Q&A. And so if this kicks off in a minute, thanks for watching. I might even end up deleting this video. I don't know. We'll see. Keep an eye out on social media, Instagram, to post questions. We'll do this in another day or two.
Cool, man.
Speaking of barrel, I think I'm going to keep an eye on my Zoom and see if it tells me momentarily that it's kicking us off. Man, so when we were at Macaroni's, and actually I wasn't there on the big day, one of these weird windswell big days, but I've seen it a lot. But there's one photo sequence that Clay's brother Shane got of one of the boys on the trip of Superman ejecting out of what would have been the pit of the day. Because it was like shock and awe and fear. And his whole thing, all these groups that we get to Macaroni's, they're like, oh, I want to get barreled. And then you see them surf and you're like, oh, you're like 10 steps away from you're nowhere near getting barreled yet. And this guy, one of his things was, I want to get barreled. And man, he just freaked out. Wasn't a cut. He didn't know what he was looking for. And what we saw in this was perfection. Like, man, this is it. And then he's just like, nah, fuck this, I'm out.
He's a terror.
Terror.
Oh yeah, it's pretty much how it is. Like I said to the Grom, I said there was a morning where I pulled into 3 or 4 barrels and I made 2 of them. But basically the reason that I did it, that I went for them, was because I knew he was paddling out. I just wanted him to see that just got to be relaxed, man. And I said to him, look, the easiest way to relax is just come to terms with the fact that you're not going to make it. No. Just get friendly with, I'm not going to make it, and then I can relax and just go, whatever happens, happens. Yep. And, man, he's adapted pretty quickly for a 9-year-old, so, I'm looking forward to the future. I've got to get him to narrow the stance now so he can bring that right arm through, because he's a natural footer. Once he narrows the stance and gets that shoulder moving and that hand and coffee cup, he's going to make sections so easy. He's starting to really do some cool shit.
I think back to the barrel thing, because somebody's asked a question. I think it's me now actually getting barreled when a wave offers the opportunity the last couple of years in Indo. I think what people could do to just fast track it is what Clay talks about, is you need to either boogie board or body surf. Just so you...
I've been doing that too.
Just so people actually have an understanding, they have a firsthand perspective of what it is you're actually looking for, and being deep and leaning into it, and sitting where you need to sit.
There was one morning a while back where it was really perfect little rights at the local break, and I was like, man, I'm just going to lie down and pull in, and the Grom was paddling out, and he went, I want to do that. And I was like, man, I'm so stoked that he actually wanted to do it, because he could easily have been forgiven for just wanting to stand up and do turns on every wave. For sure. And as soon as he saw me just lie down and pull in, he was like, I want to do that. And I was like, cool, let's do it. And he got a couple of beatings, but he had fun.
Beatings. It's part of the process, man. Gotta. Actually, that leads us to this question: M4XL. What's your technique for when you're in the barrel and realize you aren't going to make it, in terms of what you do with your body and best ways to bail safely? So I'll chat first, then you go, Twiggy. I think it first really matters on what the bottom is and how deep it is. What are your surroundings that you're aware of? If you know it's shallow, obviously you're not going to try to pin drop. And so, I think I would first say that it totally depends if it's reef or beach bottom, or sand bottom beach break or something. Cause when we were surfing bigger Greenbush, Clay was like, oh, try to almost pin drop it to push back out the back of it. And I was like, fuck, that doesn't even make sense to me, man. And he's like, nah, kick the board out in front of you and try to pin drop and get back underneath it. And I'm like, okay, yeah, I guess so. Yeah. What do you have to say, man?
So on that subject about Greenbush, if you ever get a chance to talk to Andy King, I had a really interesting conversation with him about what he's identified that people like John and them do. And he said they found this spot so deep in backhand tubes that they can eject and they pop out the back nearly every time. I was like, wow, that's next level sort of feel. For me, I totally agree with what you're saying. In terms of where are you when you're if you're at a place that you shouldn't be going for anything less than 50-50 because it's really shallow, then you want to think twice about practicing your tube riding there, or maybe going there once it's honed, But for me, I've found that I always move my back foot forward. So my back foot comes just in front of the grip. My feet are a bit closer together, and then I can swing that shoulder through. And then if I'm not going to make it, I just wait for that lip to land and bounce up under the board, and I go off the inside rail. So I'm a natural footer. Yep. So I go off the rail where my right arm is, over that side of the board. And that usually lands me in a spot where I get spat out the back. Now, I had an opportunity to focus on this one day at a beach break, and I just didn't expect to make a single wave. And on the one wave where I thought, just for a second, I entertained the thought of making it, because I highlined and went again. And just by entertaining that thought and trying a bit too hard, I went over the other rail, landed on my back, and the wave just landed right on my head.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, just that one change of thought, because it was almost like I tried too hard. And that was the biggest beating I got in that surf. So, yeah, the more relaxed you are, and just, I don't know, I just gotten used to feeling that moment where your board gets ripped out from under you and you just keep catapulting forward. Bintangs is a really cool place for it. I've had waves that have taken my board from me, and I've actually come out like on my chest, like skimming out of the barrel, body surfing, and then usually it bends and drags you back onto the reef. It's a deep wave, so it's not that big a deal.
Yeah, I would be curious to ask some like really good barrel riders, because they do, like, a couple of those guys have done some tutorial videos, and they do have like these little tweaks and nuances of things that they do to like bail and eject. And so I think the biggest thing I do, because I'm not by any means like some super proficient barrel rider, but it's generally, I think, first starts with being really aware of what the wave is and where it's at and what the bottom is, and if it's shallow and is it low tide. And generally always I'm covering my head. Like if I'm going, like if it's like a last minute kind of eject, I'll try to go flat and just cover the head. But it's not like I'm one often surfing 8-foot hits anyways. Or
I never cover my head. I don't know why. Probably because it's never really needed covering. But I do, like, I come off in a way that I always come off with my right arm forward and land on this side. And that way I try and land in a position where all that air's going to get compressed and spat out the back, because that's your best chance to get out with that air.
Cool. All right, guys, thanks for checking this out. We will be, again, keep an eye out on Instagram. We'll post to take questions, and we'll do like more of a formal Q&A. And then I'll start doing some more chats with cool people doing this platform. So leave us some comments. I'll try to keep tweaking with the audio and figure that shit out. And everybody stay safe, stay healthy. Twiggy, any last comments, brother?
I'd like to thank you for putting in the hours today to get this thing set up, buddy. Your perseverance is nothing short of awesome. So yeah, thanks, and thanks everyone, and look forward to seeing you all again soon.
Cool. Peace, guys. Keep an eye out. Twiggy, today's Thursday. Maybe even tomorrow we do a chat.
I'm free every day after lunchtime, my time. So yeah.
All right. So yeah, if anybody's watching, we'll probably do a Q&A tomorrow. Head over to my Instagram. I'll put up a thing shortly to like take questions. And yeah, thanks everybody. Stay safe. Stay healthy. Peace.